All right. Hello and welcome everyone to Cloud Google Workspace training series. Today we will be focusing on diving deep into the investigation tool for our admins. My name is Nick Marchese. I am your host today. And if you have any questions during or after, you could always email us at webinars@cloudasta.com. We'd be happy to answer any follow-up questions you may have. So today we're going to be doing a lot of demoing about the investigation tool. I just want to give you a bit of a laundry list of all of the different options that we have available in the investigation tool. The investigation tool is a security tool in the admin console that is a way for admins to dive deep and do some investigation into any number of things. Maybe it's something that looks suspicious. Maybe it's something that is hindering somebody's use. Maybe you just need to intervene because something's just not working well between some of your users. So you have a lot of options here, and we're going to go ahead and do some demoing and go through some examples. You can see it's touching on most of the apps that are part of the series, part of the platform, and some a little bit more robust than others, but this is actively being developed and new features are rolling out week by week. Something to keep in mind is that this is currently available for Enterprise Workspace Editions only and Education Standard and Plus only. So if you have a different edition, you will not see this available. But if you're curious, you don't know what edition you have, and you don't see it, or you know what edition you're on, and you're curious about upgrading, whether it's for this reason or a different reason, you can contact us, again, webinars@cloudasta.com, and we'd be more than happy to walk you through your options. All right, so I'm going to jump over here to my admin console. Welcome to my exciting Your Domain. And we've been here before. You probably live in here to a certain degree, but you've been in here before. So we are going to go ahead and find our investigation tool. So you can easily search, obviously, at the top because the search is very powerful, but it is going to be on our left side menu here. Remember, this opens and collapses now. We talked about that in one of our last videos. Under security, and then we scroll a little bit down here under Security Center, and we have Investigation Tool. So one more time before we get into this, I've said this before, please don't do any major changes to your console while we're doing this. If you want to go ahead and poke around and do some side-by-side work, super. But please don't make any drastic changes that you're not necessarily sure you want to be doing yet. So I'm going to click on Investigation Tool. Okay. All right. And then we have this search. So what we're going to be doing is searching for things, searching for specific types of data. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse my menu here. And we've got a couple of different things that we're going to be looking at. First of all, I'm going to get into the actual search in a minute, but I want to show you what all of our little side options are here before we get started. We could have multiple searches, which I'll show you in a moment, and you can delete them, or you can go ahead and do some other things with them with our menu buttons here. We could also collapse them to make them a little bit more tight if we want to go ahead and see multiple searches at once. If we want to add another search, we can go ahead and add a search card by hitting that little plus. We can collapse all of them. We can delete all of them. We could also save and view investigations and even duplicate them. So that way, if you have a very specific investigation for a specific email sent to a specific person at a certain time, you spend a lot of time honing in all the search criteria, you can save it and go back to it later. And then we have some further settings in here, including what time zone you're in, do you need somebody to review the items, so on and so forth in different pieces. This thing that I want to highlight is this enable action justification. And basically what this is doing, same for here, require admins to enter justification for text before viewing email content. It gives the ability to create a log of why an admin is doing something. So maybe you have multiple admins on your, your edition, your instance, and you want to go ahead and you make sure you're kind of keeping track of who's doing what and for what reasons. So toggling these on could be a helpful thing, both for the email one and or for the action justification. Okay, let's get going. So we're going to hit our drop down here. You can see here we have to select our data source. So these are all the little pieces that I've showed you on the first slide there. So I'm going to just quickly go through all of them. Some of the things that we have examples to show you, some things we don't, but we'll go into as many as we can. So I'm going to just start with our calendar log events. So what this is going to show me is anything that has changed with any calendar events within our domain. So we can add in conditions, basically to like make our search a little bit more specific. Let me zoom back out. Okay. So if I hit add conditions, I can pick what I want to be looking for. So maybe the actor would be, whoever is doing something with that event. Maybe I have the calendar ID. Maybe I have a specific date I'm looking for, or the event title. There's a lot of things here that we could be looking for. I'm not going to go ahead and pick one of these right away, but I will after I see something. So I'm going to hit search. And it's going to pull up all of my events that are in the domain. So this, obviously, it shows a lot of me right now, nick@testcloudasta.com. But for your domain, you'll probably see a lot of different people here and a lot of different calendar IDs. And then the event ID is actually the unique identifier for each event, which gives you the ability to do some things with. So I want to look for, let's use this one for an example. I created this Jedi meeting back in August. So I'm going to go back up to my search. This is 17 is just too many for me to look at. So I'm going to add a condition, and I want to look for my event title contains Jedi in it. So I'm going to search for just Jedi. So now you see I only have those two events. So I could see on the date and time when the event was created and when there was a guest added. And I could scroll over, I could see some more details. I could see who I sent it to, see when the event start and end times are. I see a lot of details in here. You could also go ahead and change what you see in these columns by hitting this little cog and toggling some things on and off if you don't need to see all these pieces. Okay, so this may be helpful, maybe not be, depending on what you're looking for. So a couple of other things to look at. We're going to get more into this in a moment, but for all the things in the investigation tool, you have the ability to have actions or to be able to pivot. So for example, an action would be if I went to my event ID, I can go to actions and I can copy that value. That's not going to be super helpful for me. It'll be really helpful in a moment when we do something beyond calendar, but I'm just showing you where that lives. And then the pivot gives the ability to create a new search automatically with that information, with that event ID. I don't want to do that because I know there's only that one, but maybe I want to look at everything that nick@test.cloudasta.com has created. So I'm going to click this little three-dot menu. I'm going to hit pivot to, and I can pivot to lots of different things. So I'm going to stick with my calendar logs for a second. I'm going to say that for my calendar log events, the actor, which is the person who's making the event or editing an event, where the actor is nick@test.cloudasta. So I'm going to click that, and you see it makes a new search for me, and it automatically brings in that information. And then I can hit search here, and I get some expanded search, right? So this is now everything associated with that. So the idea here is being able to pivot quickly with different data points to do other searches gives you the ability to have to do less copy and pasting and miss out on some essential information. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this second search for a moment because I don't need it. And let's go and try something different. So chat log events is something that we don't have a lot in here. So I'm just going to hit search and not add any conditions. Just basically saying, hey, here's the date of a message was sent. It gives you a message ID, which you can't really do too much with right now because this is new information, and who the actor was and who it was, and what if there were any attachments or any recipients, things like that. Again, this one will expand in terms of its functionality, but there's nothing I can really do here with my actions. You'll see what this looks like in a moment. So device logs. So I'm going to hit search on my device logs. Again, I'm not adding a lot of descriptors in here. or conditions in here, but I will in one moment. So let me add one for my device logs. So I want my user email. You can see that for different data points, the attributes are going to be very different, right? So I'm talking about devices now, right? So I want to put my user email to contain Nick. Sure, we can do my whole thing. Hit search. So now I will see all the times my Mac has synced with the domain. And I could see lots of information here. I could see a Mac, I could see a domain, stuff like that. If you have these devices in here, you have to be really careful here. We're going to see here, I'm going to go into my actions, and all of a sudden I have a lot of actions that I can take on here, including wiping an account, blocking an account, doing a couple of different things with taking over that device. So you have to be really careful if there's something you're doing in here. But this might be really helpful for what you're looking for if it's a managed device. If it's not, just be super careful with what you're playing with. Okay. That's also going to be really similar for if I go over to devices. I'll just search for devices. And I could see here, let me go and add me as the user email again, is test.cloudasset.com. And I can see I have two different devices that I've worked on before, different device IDs, and I can go ahead and see those same sort of actions that I can associate with that device. So again, probably not something you're going to be working on very often, but I want to show you what options are available. Okay, let's move on to some things that I think are a little bit more interesting. Drive logs. So these are going to be any files in Google Drive that you want to be searching for. Maybe you say, oh, I found this file, but it's not shared with somebody and something's going on and maybe it was deleted and blah, 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 blah. That's what we're looking for. You could do a lot more with Drive. So I'm going to look at my Drive logs and I'm going to go into my attributes, and we can see a couple of things here. The actor, which we've seen that term a lot, right? Which is basically the user. The document ID, the document type, the event, if it has a label, if it has what the title might be. So who's the owner of the event, so on and so forth. So I want to look for, let's see if I remember this correctly. I created a document called secret recipe. Let's see if I can find it. Amazing. I can search now and I could see there's a couple of different things within our whole domain with the term recipe in it in Drive, right? So I could see here, I've got a Google Doc named secret recipe. I've got a folder named recipes, and I could see more with the secret recipe. If you look really carefully, you could see that the secret recipe Google Doc has this document ID, right? 1G8I. It's the same one. So a Drive log event is anytime anything has changed with the Drive file or Drive folder, right? So if I go over to the side here, I can see what the event is, right? So this time it was a view. We changed user access. There was an edit made. We edited the file. So it's literally every iteration of a change to a Drive file or a folder is in here. So you can really go back and figure out what's going on. Okay, let's look a little bit more at what we can do with Drive. So I want to click the three-dot menu next to that document ID. The document ID, like the event ID, is really key. That's where you're going to be doing the things if you want to go ahead and have some actions. So when I click that actions on the document ID, I can do a couple different things. I can add a user. So maybe this was shared with somebody who is no longer able to get into their account or blah, 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 blah. And you want to go ahead and share it with you or share it with somebody else because it needs to happen. So we can go ahead and click add users. And then we have the ability to type in a new user, I'm going to type in a new user, whatever. And then you could say, okay, these are the permissions that I want: view, comment, edit, or manage. And then you confirm that you want to do that by typing in the term here, add users. And then it will go down and add that user. Let me see if I can do this right here. Add users. And it'll say drive action in progress. We can hit view and we just basically scrolls us down. See drive action is in progress. There we go. And it says drive action completed. Item permissions for Nick at Cladasta were updated for a secret recipe. So you can see the kind of the results there. Some other things you can do in here. I'm going to click on, again, the document ID menu, hit actions, and it's like jumping over on me. Here we go. We get audit file permissions, which I think is the coolest thing. Brings us to this whole nother screen that basically shows us who the drive file or folder is shared with, both users and groups. It will tell us if it's in a shared drive. It'll tell us the link sharing settings, if somebody's in the middle of making some changes, so on and so forth. This is very, very cool, and it gives you the ability to be like, okay, who is that shared with, and do I need to go in and change that on that last page? So then I'll go back to my settings here, my actions, right? And now I can do a couple of things. I can change the owner of the file. I could copy the document ID. I could disable download, print, and copy for my viewers, and I can remove users. So maybe now I want to go and remove myself or my other account. I can now type remove users, and it'll say drive action in progress. Scroll on down. Okay, item permissions were updated. So now I am no longer shared on that with my other account. Okay, great. We don't need this anymore. We don't need this anymore. You see, I'm collapsing these so that way they're not there. Maybe I don't need to collapse them and maybe just delete them because I don't need to remember that I added myself and deleted myself. But I'm showing you how you can collapse these as well. Okay, let's keep rolling. So that's with Drive. You know, you can do a lot more drilling down in terms of the search attributes and figuring out what you want to be looking for. But Drive is going to be really, really powerful. All right, Gmail log events and Gmail messages. So just like Drive log events, where basically every change that was made was logged, Gmail log events is similar to that also, where every single change that was made to a message was logged. So versus if we search on Gmail messages, it'll have one line for each message. And Gmail log events, it'll have multiple lines for each message because folks are interacting. So I'm going to go Gmail log events. I'm going to add an attribute with the sender, or let's see, the owner contains Nick. And search. Let's try this one more time. Oh man, okay, let's try something different. Let's get rid of our attributes for a second. Maybe I don't have one in there. Oh, I know why, because it's under here, messages. Let's do it this way. Here we go. Okay, great. So what I'm about to show you, I'm going to change this back to sender, to Nick. Okay, great. Okay, great. Here is my message. This message would also absolutely show up under Gmail log events. I just forgot that I send it as essentially a draft with myself, so it's not quite showing up in that same capacity. But these will show up also in the log events in a normal instance. This is our test instance, so it looks a little bit different. So I can see here my message. I see a subject. I see a message ID. I see the owner. I see the sender. I see the recipient. I see the label. The label is more than just whatever label you put on it. It's also showing if it was in inbox, if it's unread, if it's read, if it's sent, if it's phishing, if it's spam, any number of things. All the labels are going to be here, and if there's an attachment name. Okay, so why is this interesting? Well, maybe you need to go and find an email that was suspicious, or somebody deleted, or something was odd. You can go ahead and check it all out here in messages. Also, if you need to investigate whether something needs to be deleted in bulk because it was phishing that didn't get caught in the filter, you can do that here too. So what I like to do is if you need to click on this message ID, you can look at the message headers. Oh, this looks pretty legit. Okay. If you know how to read the headers, you can read the headers. And then if you click on messages, the message, you can justify your need to view the email. So again, this is going back to that setting so that you can keep a log of who's looking at what on the admin side, so that folks are just reading each other's emails all willy-nilly. But this way, every time you have to investigate an email and actually look at a message body, that it's justified. So I'm going to put in my reason of phishing, suspected phishing email. And that's just a log for internal. And I can see here that there's nothing in here. I just sent myself basically nothing in this message, but now I can read it and now I can look at it. I got a lot of actions I could take in here. I could delete the message. I could restore it. I could mark it as spam. I could also mark it as phishing. I could set it to inbox. I could set it to a quarantine if you have a quarantine set up, so on and so forth. And if there was a lot of back and forth in the message, you would also be able to see the thread as well, which is really, really helpful. So, and lastly, what I just did there within the message, you could also click on actions here and do all those same things. Delete, mark as spam, mark as phishing, restore, all that jazz. What I like to do is if I realize, for example, there was a message that was sent to somebody and it's clearly a phishing email from a different domain. There's one specific user, it's a random number at gmail.com. What I do is I will go over to sender and I'll click on the three-dot menu. I'll go to my pivot and I'll go down to my Gmail messages and pivot to Gmail message where sender is. Right now it says Nika Clarasta, but hopefully it will be your suspicious sender. It's going to bring me to a new search here. I would search for all of them. I would see, oh yeah, this was this suspicious message that was sent, and it's definitely phishing or spam, and it needs to be bulk deleted. You could just click the box, check boxes, click, 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 click on all of these, and then all at once, you can go ahead and delete it or mark it as phishing and mark it as spam. Really powerful stuff and really, really helpful in getting ahead of a potential issue. All right. Let's get rid of some of these pieces and let's do some more search. So under Gmail search, we did that. And then we have a couple of other pieces. Groups, group log events. Basically, this is going to be logging anytime some group settings change. So when somebody's added to a group, deleted from a group, their digests change, settings change, so on and so forth. You could look in there and check out what to do with those groups. Again, there's not a lot you can do with the actions here, but it's good to be able to see the logs. Meet logs. Meet logs are, Google Meet logs are a little bit newer, but they do have one or two actions in here. So basically, this is just showing you when people joined a meeting, when people left a meeting. A lot of this stuff you can get from the Google Quality Meet tool as well. Potentially, it's like better information over there, but it's good to be able to see it here as well. And you can go ahead and click on any of these. And under actions, what you can do is end the meeting for all. So if you wanted to go ahead and just lock down all those meetings, you could lock down those meetings. And for the organizer's email, and we're going to get more into this in a moment, you can force them to change their password. You could suspend the users. Again, you're probably not going to do this if you're looking at it from the meet logs, but you might. All right, let's keep on rolling here. Rule logs, I'm going to hit search. It's not going to show anything. If you create any security alerts in the alert center or here in the investigation tool, but what you'll also be able to search when those rules are created and when they've been changed and when they are activated. Under user log events and users, you could see when folks are logging in, logging out, so on and so forth. So I'll put me in here. I am the, what does it look for here? I am the user, contains Nick. And you can see here, basically it's showing when I try to log in, how I logged in, did I use a password, did I fail, so on and so forth. It's a good way to just keep track of like login events. And again, if I click on my user and I go to my actions, I can do a couple things. I could force a password reset. I could restore that user if they were suspended, or I could suspend that user. I can't do anything else here on these. All of this is going to be based off of the user. And then our users last one, it's going to be the same thing. It's basically just going to list all my users in my domain. And voice log events. If I click on voice log events and search, I could see when calls were received or sent, and who they went to. Let me go and make one more new one, just show you how this last piece works. So if I want to go into my Gmail messages, Gmail messages, not a good example. Drive log events is a good example. And I want to look for my recipe again. Okay, great. I can do a couple of different things that I highlighted at the beginning. I can save this investigation, give it a title, recipe, whatever. I can go ahead and open. I can duplicate it. Or we could do this thing here where we can create a chart based off what we're seeing, or create an activity role. So that way, if this were to happen again, if there's something were to change with my recipe drive file, I can choose what actions to take. I could have it automatically shared. I could have it deleted. I could have it quarantined. I could just have it a notification sent to me. I could do a lot of different things by creating this little rule. So I highly recommend diving a little bit into rules there as well. So I am going to just quickly pause. And if there are questions, feel free to put them in the chat for when we're done. I want to talk a little bit about if you need help diving into the investigation tool beyond our chat today, please email us at webinars@cloudasta.com. Our next webinar is supposed to be in 2 weeks for advanced doc sheets and slides for all users. We may pivot and try something a little bit different because there is a new integrated Gmail experience that is rolling out very shortly. Here's a quick screenshot that's supposed to include chat, spaces, and meet all into a more integrated experience. Keep an eye on our training page. If you've signed up for advanced editors, advanced docs, slides, and sheets already, we may be pivoting and moving that one a little bit later and doing a quick overview in 2 weeks over the new integrated Gmail experience, which will be rolling out starting at the end of this month. So we hope that you'll join us regardless of what we're doing next week, but keep an eye out for that. And again, we'll drop this here. If there are any questions, please email us. Thank you so much for listening.